Okay, have you got any quiz for us, or today you're just jumping straight into
I'll go straight
the
in
topic?
today. I'll go
Okay,
straight in today.
okay. The floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you, Baba. Thank you, everyone, for being here on time. I was going to do a quick intro, but actually, since I think everybody on here pretty much knows me, so I'm not going to bother with that. Just going to say that obviously, I'm a GP in UK, but I've also got I'm also a club doctor for an elite sports club in rugby. However, I've also got interest in men's health, women's health, and mental health, especially mental health and young African children from the ages of 8 to sort of 18. For this reason, I formed a charity called Safe Spaces, and I've got my team as well who help me with that. So this youth mental health talk really ties on what Safe Spaces do, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what Safe Spaces do as well. Okay, so we're just going to delve right in into why is youth mental health important. For the purposes of this talk, even though it just says youth mental health, it's quite broad. I'm tailoring it to Black Africans, Blacks and Africans essentially in the diaspora, mainly in the UK, but this would be relevant to people in the diaspora as well. Um, so why is this topic important? As I've said before when I've been on the show, a lot of the times what I see in clinic and in practice is that mental health in Black children often goes underdiagnosed or overlooked, and that's because of the way they present and in some of our cultural beliefs and so we're going to myth bust and some of these things that we believe culturally, and I might do a bit of a quiz, a Q&A session, getting to the end as I usually do, to see how well we've understood what we're talking about today. So let's break it down in essentially what is mental health. So mental health is not a bad term, it's just a term that basically describes how your well-being is. So I always say this, imagine if somebody says, oh, you've got physical health. You wouldn't take that as an insult, or you wouldn't take that as a negative thing. Essentially, everybody's got physical health. Now, you've either got good physical health or you've got poor physical health. And that's the descriptors. It's the same as mental health. So you've either got good mental health or poor mental health. Okay. So everybody has mental health. And sometimes you might be in the middle, and that's okay. All right. But mental health in itself is not a bad word. All it describes is your mental well-being. And if you know the definition of health from WHO, it says the complete well-being mentally, physically, emotionally. So you have to have a good mental health for you to be healthy, according to WHO's definition of what health is. Okay. So yeah, so that's just a little bit of a description of what mental health is. It's not a negative thing. A lot of people hear mental health and they jump to, oh, it's negative. Mental health just means your mental well-being. How are you functioning mentally? Okay. Now, this is where we break it down into good mental health and poor mental health. When somebody's got good mental health, we're not going to delve into that too much. You can ask me questions if you want to know, but we're going to delve more on poor mental health, how to figure it out in young people and when to seek help. Okay. So some of the things that we're looking at when it comes to somebody having poor mental health, especially in children, is how they behave. Okay, it will all start with behavior. They might start acting out of the ordinary, might start being what we call stubborn, might start having outbursts. So again, even in little children, as young as 2 and 3 years old, say they have tantrums, and that can be attributed to mental health in the younger. Trust me, toddlers have mental health too, believe it or not. The same way that they have physical health, they've got mental health too. Okay, it's unlikely for a toddler to be diagnosed with mental health illness, but they do have mental health, and they can get a breakdown, and that's exactly what tantrum is. A tantrum is a mental health breakdown in a child, which is transient, and it bounces back to being normal. Okay, when they're a little bit older, that can last a little bit longer. It might not be like a tantrum where they throw themselves on the floor and start rolling around, but it might be a bit of a stubborn spree. So you feel like, oh, when I talk to them, they don't listen to me. When they're not what they used to be. They're much quieter than usual. Actually, they're a lot more talkative than usual. These can all be signs of mental health. In a lot of cultural and African backgrounds, we would say that oh, wabasso. Or what does that? How could you even translate that in English? Like they're. Somebody help me with that. Well, like, what would you say wabasso is in English?
Is it too knowing? I
Yeah,
think.
like wasro, like what wasro would be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chief, come and help me here. Kwame, where are you? Oh, Auntie Liz, maybe you can help. But yeah. So essentially, in Ghana, was you're in tree, you'd say something like, "Oh, Wastro or Wabasso" or things like that. Those could all be signs for mental.
Or in Penism.
Pardon?
In Penism.
In Penism, yeah, yeah, exactly.
In
Like,
Penism.
yeah. In Penism, somebody says you have come top.
Oh, you have come top.
There's a word I'm thinking of. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't seem to bring it out. I'm sure it will come later. But there's a particular word I'm looking for in English. It's like almost like anyway, never mind. I'm sure it'll come to me. But essentially, these are all things that we can say. These are signs of somebody going down the road of having poor mental health. Sleeping patterns. So when sleep changes, so not having enough sleep or sleeping too much. So as I say, too much of everything's bad. Not having enough sleep is bad. But having too much of sleep can be bad as well. That can also be telling signs of mental health. Sometimes somebody becoming really shy. So if you've got a really outspoken sort of teenager and all of a sudden they're starting to become very, very isolated, not wanting to mix with anybody, social isolation, defiance. I like that. Yeah, would be maybe that wastro bit. Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad word. Like that. Thanks. So yeah. So essentially, there's a lot of symptoms that you can you can pass off as being be having mental health issues, but essentially, if some of these symptoms as well can actually be not be mental health and can be something else. So this is where we need to learn how do we differentiate between true mental health and not mental health. Okay, so when would I actually wait? Are there any questions before I move on in terms of the symptoms and what to expect? That's fine. I'm straight on. Unless you have something, Baba.
Personally, no, but I just want to say that if you have any questions that maybe you don't want to raise your hand or unmute yourself and talk about, you can drop them in the chat box. Thank you.
Yep. No questions so far. That's good. So I'll just go on to how do we then how do we differentiate these symptoms or when do we actually go to seek medical help? So I'm gonna do it in sort of cases. So let's say you have like a 10-year-old, and it's gonna be quite interactive. So I do want people to answer. So if you can, just type in the chat or just answer, like just call out, okay? So let's say there's a 10-year-old who used to love playing football, used to goes every Saturday to football with dad, plays after school club football with friends maybe on a Monday and a Wednesday. So that's 3 times a week they're doing football. And then all of a sudden one Saturday when dad says, "Oh, come on, let's get ready for football," they say, "No, I'm not going." And no matter what dad does, despite trying to bribe with, well, we'll get ice cream on the way, we'll get McDonald's, whatever, they're still like, no, no, I'm not going. And then they almost like have a mental breakdown. They get into a tantrum, stomp their feet, stomp up the steps, go into their room, bang the door and say, no, I'm not going to football, bury themselves under the quilt. At this point, would you say this is them exhibiting signs of mental health, or is this exhibiting signs of becoming a stubborn child? Uh-huh. Go for it, Baba.
Okay. Possibly it could be so many things. Are we allowed to say something outside of the two
Yeah,
options you've given us?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So possibly maybe the last time they went to football, something happened and that's put them off. So possibly it's about talking to the child and finding out exactly what's going on, because with this, I don't think it's mental health and I don't think it's being defiant. Though they stormed off and everything, in our culture, it's not cool, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, see, you're bang on, and Auntie Liz, I've seen that you've written in the chat as well, being bullied. So you guys are actually bang on to what I was going to try and explain. Okay, so you're right to say that the answer does not lie between any of the two choices I gave you. Okay, but what I wanted to point out here is you made the mistake that I spoke about before when you said, this is not mental health, but it could just be. Do you see what I'm just trying to drive a point home, okay? It is mental health because, like I said, mental health is not necessarily a bad thing, okay? But you're quite right in saying that it's not a mental health illness, nor is it a child being stubborn.
Yeah.
at this point, we need to investigate. Okay, as parents, we always do investigative work, or as carers or whatever. You need to find out why is it that they suddenly had this change of character. So this is when, like Auntie Liz said, were they bullied the last time they were at football? Were they laughed at for having holes in their socks? Were they laughed at for having last season's jersey, like they've gone, what exactly was it that is making them not like it? Or maybe their interest has truly changed. Maybe they no longer like football. They've been watching the rugby and they're like now into rugby, so they just want to go rugby and they don't want to do football anymore. There's so many options, but this is what we need to do. We need to, number one, notice that there's a problem and not say, oh, they're just being stubborn. And then we need to talk to them about what's going on. It could just be on that specific day, they just didn't feel like going to football. And despite what they kept saying to dad kept saying, oh, come on, we'll get ice cream on the way because dad's excited to go. Not really listening to the child. So the child just had a mental breakdown, like, you're not listening to me. I'm not trying to go to this football. So the first thing, when you notice a change in a young person, is you need to communicate with them. And I know this might be is very new to some parenting methods, because in some parenting methods we don't speak to our children. It's just you do it or you don't, and the cane comes out and bang bang bang. But in this new modern day, we communicate with our children. We ask them, what's the matter, what's going on, tell us what's wrong. Okay, fine. To this same 10-year-old, you go to their room, see them under the quilt, sit on the bed, you lift up you say, can I come in? They say no, go away. You proceed to go in anyway. You sit on the bed and you say, oh, what's the matter, Jack? And they say, I don't want to talk to you, blah, 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 leave me, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Should I ask a question here or should I not? What would you do? Would you leave them alone, or would you proceed to try and find out what's going on? What would you do? Something else? Or what would be your approach to that? Not you specifically, somebody else.
But I think this one would be very interesting.
I think a lot of people might have different approaches to it, but I'm interested to see what people are saying. You can please write in the chat as well. Okay, fine.
Obeda.
What would you? Okay, tell me about what you do.
Personally, on a normal day, I know this is on Zoom, so you have
got to
to
be careful.
Yes. On a normal day, okay, you're throwing tantrums and everything. Okay, be there. Whatever you want to do is your problem. Maybe later we'll talk about it, but don't come and tell me anything when you are calm and I am also not ready. But in a better approach, you have to find out exactly what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're right in a way, but I suppose it could be done a bit of a more sensitive way. I like what EQ has said. So I'll give them their space and readdress the issue later on, which is exactly what you said, but just in a different way. But you're given that ultimatum of, well, don't come to me when I'm not ready, because I'm not ready to talk to you, which you could actually miss a very important window.
Yeah.
If you do that, right? So the best thing, as much as as annoying as it is, giving them their space, just saying, okay, you know what, this is where reassuring is important. So just almost giving them a tap on the back, or just patting them and being like, okay, that's fine, but I'll be here when you're ready to talk. Just that, and leaving the room. That tells the child that you're there. And I'm not going to pester you to say what you're not ready to say. I'm going to give you your time, but I'll be here when you're ready to talk. Or, that's fine. Take your time. We can talk about it over dinner, or just whenever you're ready. Just say something encouraging to let them know that you are open to having a conversation, but in their time, when they're ready. Okay. And as much as annoyed as you might be, because you might be wanting to go to this football, you've made plans to go to football, pass by Marks and Spencer's on your way home or something, you might have plans, but sometimes you need to put your child's priority in front of whatever that may be, because at this moment we actually don't know what's going on. Okay. So unless we know what's going on and we've ruled out everything else and it's just them being stubborn, then the cane can come out. But until we know that, we don't jump to conclusions. So we need to do a bit of investigating. JJ says, I'll personally ask if there's anything we can speak about, which is not a bad way as well. So for example, and again, a lot of counselors say this sometimes work as well. So you can say, okay, if they keep saying go, be like, okay, I'm not here to talk about football. I'm here to talk about anything you want me to talk about. And if they still persist that you go away, then go away. But if you say, I'm here to talk about anything, and they start talking about, I don't know, chips or how they want to have, kind of, Mum, can we have McDonald's for dinner? And you say, yeah, sure, we can have McDonald's for dinner, or, whatever it is. At this point, you're pampering them, really, because you're trying to get information out of them. Okay. Um, but if it's not McDonald's, it's like, no, you can't have McDonald's for dinner because you're on a diet. Because you're a 10-year-old with a big belly. I don't know, but but whatever it is, just make space, open up conversation for them to to be able to approach you. Okay, so that's the important thing. So right, so you said, okay, come and talk to me whenever you're ready, and you've gone away. Then do you leave them for the rest of the night, or do you go back and check on them at some point?
Is it the truth or Zoom?
Give
Oh
me your
no.
two.
I think personally you'd have to check on the individual again, whether it's your child, your nephew, niece, whoever it is. You should
Mm,
check in on the person again, because genuinely something might be going on,
yeah,
especially you knowing that that's not how the person is. Maybe you have even done something to the child and you're not aware.
yeah.
And yeah, it would be best to just go and check in on the child again. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. So again, like I say, when it's dinner time, just knock on the door. Hey, Jack, dinner's ready. Are you ready to come down? And at some point, I think if they decided to, like, let's say if this was like 5 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock they were still in their room and not coming out. I think at this point some force might be needed. Like
Yeah.
you'll actually need to go into the room and say, "Hey, I know that you're upset, blah blah blah, but you need to come down. You need to eat, and I need
Yeah.
to get. There needs to be a bit of a giveaway here. But the most important thing that I'm trying to drive at here is that we need to. Most important point to take away. We need to find out what's going on with the child. We need to show the child that we do care about them. We don't just care about us missing football or whatever. We care about how they're feeling. But we're open space for them to kind of and talk to us and confide in us, and also giving them their space. But okay, almost checking up on them, saying, "Have you eaten dinner? Would you like to eat dinner?" Going back to check on them will let them know that you care about them, and that that they could, again, that almost creates a safe space to say, "Oh, this is somebody who cares about me. I can potentially open up to them." But if you're just angry and be like, "Okay, and you're not having dinner tonight if you don't tell me what's going on," then they just be like, "Okay," like so there's a way to go about it. These new Gen Z children and Gen Alpha children, like it's the way that we bring them up is different from the way they brought us up.
Very different.
So, okay, so I'm not gonna ask any more questions because of time, but essentially, how do you find that difference? So the main thing here, the reason I gave that scenario is because, number one, we need to find, if it's a first time offense, and I'm saying first time offense like it's a crime, but if it's the first time you're recognizing any symptoms that are not normal or usual in the young person, then what we need to do is we need to then turn into a detective and do the investigation. If this continues to go on despite you trying to find out what's going on, then obviously it becomes a little bit more serious. So if it's not just football, so if it's just to do with football, then we can start to recognize a pattern, and we can say, okay, it's either they no longer like football or something is happening at football that I need to find out. Okay, so this is where, as a parent, you start doing a bit of investigation. You might have to talk to some of Jack's teachers, some of Jack's friends, to find out what's going on, etc. If it's not just football, and you're finding that with everything that they used to enjoy doing, they're starting to not enjoy doing it, then this is where I start getting a little bit of red flags, okay? Because sometimes that's how mental health can show up. If it's just a particular isolated thing, it could still be poor mental health with that particular thing, because if they're being bullied, definitely that will have a negative impact on their mental health, but that will just be for that one occasion. But if it's right across, like they're not wanting to go to school, they're not wanting to go to church, not wanting to go swimming, they're not wanting to go to basketball, they just want to stay in their room all day, they don't even come down to have dinner, they're literally isolating themselves. This is a pattern of actually poor mental health in general, and it could be a sign of depression or anxiety in young children, and that's how it could present. So that's when I will start thinking to myself, do I need to get a health professional involved? A health visitor is a good point of call. You can also speak to your school teachers, because they can almost find a pattern way before you have done. Is it that something has changed in school? Have they changed friends? Are they? You won't believe how many times parents have come in and said, the teacher said that she's fighting with her best friend, and then all of a sudden this is turned into like, and this happens a lot in girls groups. So if you've got like a girls group of 5, and then all of a sudden, or even usually girls group of 3, and all of a sudden one person feels like they're being singled out, that one person can, and it happens a lot. So somebody might come in and I might say, have you spoken to school? They might say, no, I haven't. I'll say, go back, talk to school, find out what's going on. Next day they'll come back and say they're a group of 3, they've had a fight, and she feels like the 2 of them are like leaving her out of the group, so now she feels like she has no friends, she's isolated in school because she, and that can be the start of stuff. But if you don't do your investigative work, if you don't ask around, you're never going to know, and you're just going to start to think, oh, my child has become, since she turned 16, or since she turned when she went to that new class, she's become very, very defiant, and and then you can start almost creating this perceptions of your child and labeling them in a way that, but actually at that point what they need the most is your support. So that's one thing. The second thing is Black parents having time for their kids. Now, if you're not home with your children, these symptoms are going to be very, very difficult to spot. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing anybody. We're all working parents. I know how important it is to go out there and hustle and work. But, you need to make time for your family, or you need to be very attentive to your family. So even if you're a night shift worker and you're not home at night, or if you're a weekend worker, you're not home during the week, or whatever it is, you still should still know your kids, or build a relationship with your children in a way that they should be able to come to you when they need, or have some activities with your kids. So like I said, even if you're not home, like let's say I know somebody who works outside the country, so he only comes back on a Friday, spends Friday, Saturday, Sunday with his family, and then he's off. But when you're here Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what are you doing? Are you spending time with your family, spending time with your kids? Because it could make that difference. If when you come back on a Friday, and on a Saturday you're going swimming every Saturday, and if there's a change in swimming, you will notice it. But if you're not there and you're not making time to have any activities with your family at all, how are you going to notice it? You won't. So that's another one of the most important things. And Black families don't tend to have time with families. We're very, very busy. We're very, very, we all want to go home and build houses. And what's that company Taptap keeps bringing on, say we should come and build houses, and we should go and buy houses in Ghana. Yeah, all those houses that we want to go and buy. The tallest, the one that is the tallest building
They've
in
got
Ghana.
concierge and everything, 24 hours. Yeah. It's a
We
very
all
huge
want,
investment.
yes, we
Yes.
all want to go back and live that Habibi life. But if you're not there with your kids, you're not there with your family, and the Habibi life will not suit you, because you'll be there in that tall building alone. When your children are gone to social workers. So we just need to be a little bit more mindful, spending time with our children. So as I guess in summary, when do we notice the difference? When there's a pattern recognition. Okay, so if it's a one-time event, we just need to investigate. But if it only happens that once, then I think I'm not gonna think much about it. If it's continuously with the same thing, and then I'll start to think, okay, could this be, yes, it could be a negative mental health reaction, but from something like, is it bullying, or is it loss of interest in an activity? Which is fine. We're allowed to grow out of stuff. When I was younger, actually I never grew out of anything, but when people are younger, they like sports, they like stuff, they like cartoons, and then they grow up and they no longer like cartoons. It's normal. Okay, I still love cartoons, but essentially it's fine to grow out of things. But then if there's a pattern recognition across all the boards, then we need to start asking a bit more questions, or we need to start getting health professionals involved. Okay, so I guess I will round up there, and just on a sort of in my summary, say that this is another bit where my it's not a charity, it's a community interest company, but this is where we come in. So if any Black families are struggling with trying to get through to the children, like they feel like their children have changed, they're not really sure what's going on, but they're not, they just want somebody who might help them speak to the children, give them a bit of tips on how they can get their children to open up to them, or even if it's the charity that has to speak to the child to see what's going on. That's essentially what Safe Spaces does. So if you want to know more about my company Safe Spaces as well, let me know. I'll put some details in the chat. But yeah, that's essentially what we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akosua. So this evening, just like myself, I've learned, and I'm sure quite a few of you have learned, there's a difference between mental health, illness itself, and mental health, and it can happen to anyone. Sometimes we all do throw tantrums here and there, even as adults, but then it doesn't mean you have the illness itself. it means life is just happening, and it can happen to a child as well. So we should just go down to their level, ask questions, be more informed, and kind of meet them halfway. Of course, as a parent, as rich aunties and uncles, you know how your nephews, your nieces, your kids, how they behave, and if there's a change, there's always someone you need to go out to seek help with. There are family members who can also assist. Dr. Akosua is here. Her team is also available to support us as well. So are we going to jump into questions or we go questions? What would you like to do, Dr. Akosua?
Yeah, I'm happy to take questions. I don't know if we're going for a break or if we don't have a break, but yeah, I'm happy to start taking questions too.
Okay. Maybe just a quick advert, and we will be back. Thank you.
Or maybe not. Okay.
So physical money and pretty me do rap just from me send jam in a minute in Sabacandia and then one tap send.
Yeah, Ebushanfo, we didn't did an akuma patchlewa one. They recommended Taptap Send mama. And that's how for also for baby. Basa, our rating so yeah. Our year A1. So pian road do Taptap Send. That also is a for Taptap.
Yɛkɔ hu de wɔkyerɛ amansan yɛkɔ hu de wɔkyerɛ Ghana for say yɛwɔ akwantu ne de sika kɔfie nie me yɛn fɛnfa baabi a yɛbɛnu yɛn ho tap ɛdɛmu fiwa tap send in this street
The tap de no an ɛkɔ
Tap and one na
piao.
Welcome back to the next part of the session. Once again, Taptap Send is the company sponsoring this meeting tonight. So yes, if anyone has any questions, could you please drop it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself to ask your question. While we wait, I would like to ask Dr. Akosua a question. So there's a question that has come in, and it goes, well, I know you didn't talk about it, but it says, what are the long-term effects of untreated mental health conditions in young people?
That's a very good question. Thank you, whoever asked that question. That's a very good question. Thank you. Essentially, long-term effects of untreated mental health is that they're now tagged with the label of sort of almost of being defiant, like I said, or of being stubborn, or of being distractive. So if you think about whenever you're in class and when you have like a PTO meeting with a child or whatever, whether you're a parent or a guardian, essentially there are all these labels that are thrown around. Oh, the child is distractive, or they're talkative, or they're stubborn. And as these labels can really stick with kids, and as they go on, they start to believe these things. Oh, I've always been talkative, I've always been, and it's like, and it can also have a negative impact on their confidence. So they might say, nobody believes me, nobody really cares about me, nobody wants to know what's going on with me. And the more that happens, the more Listen, I really like that word defiant, isn't it? Like, the more defiant they become. So, so so essentially, the long-term effects are that it almost goes into a loop where the kids then grow up building on these characters that we've labeled them with, and then they end up being that person that you feel, they, that person that we think that they are. Essentially, another thing is if you've got untreated mental health condition, it can only get worse, can't it? So if you think about, again, I'm just going to use a physical condition. If you've got high blood pressure and you don't medicate yourself, your blood pressure is going to get worse and worse and worse until a point where you might die from it. And the same with mental health, you might not die from it in a normal way, like you will from a high blood pressure. But essentially, that's what causes people to commit suicide, isn't it? People feel like they're unheard. People feel like they're not wanted. People feel like nobody cares about them because they've had this problem for ages. And if you're my parent or my guardian and you can't even recognize it, who else will recognize it? And they end up taking their lives because they feel like they've got nobody in their corner. So it really can have detrimental effects and even death. But as I say, a lot of the time within the African communities, mental health is number one. It's almost frowned upon. It's like a taboo. We don't talk about it, and actually, we don't even believe in it. That's the sad thing. A lot of the time, from what I've recognized, black people, Africans especially, and Caribbeans actually, even Asians as well, don't really believe in mental health. It's like, oh, it's just in their head. Oh, they're just acting up, or they're just pretending until it's too late. And then, and the funny thing is, even when there's been a suicide and somebody has died from mental health, it's still almost not believed. And it's almost like, oh, they were just, they just took their life because they wanted attention. And I think nobody ever takes their life because they want attention. There's so many other ways to get attention. When somebody takes their life, that is pretty much mental health. You have to be mentally ill to do that. So if there's been anybody attempting to take their own life or self-harming and stuff, I would take that pretty seriously and kind of stop flagging it as, oh, they just wanted attention. Because trust me, if they wanted attention, there's so many ways they can do it. I'm not going to give anybody ideas here, but I can certainly think of at least 10 ways you can get attention rather than to take your own life or to harm your own self. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akosua. So the next question is, how do cultural beliefs influence attitudes toward youth or young people's mental health?
Yeah. I think essentially charity begins from home, isn't it? I think we're not really taught about mental health at home, again, as Black Africans, Caribbeans, Asians. We're essentially not really taught to understand it. So if you're going through something in your home, which might have been poor mental health, and and you were kind of told, oh, just suck it up, be a woman, or back in my day we used to do this and that on top of everything, stop being a baby, and you almost learn to do that as well, and it's passed down, it's generational. I had to unlearn some of the things that that I'd learned culturally, just because almost we don't really believe in, as I say, we don't really believe in these things, and especially being being around sort of Black communities, you'll find that a lot of people don't tend to, again, not much education, not much awareness. And I'm not blaming anybody for this. It's just the way that people were brought up. And if you were not brought up to understand something, you won't really understand it, will you? It's the same way that our eating habits are really bad. It's only now in the ages of TikTok that every auntie wants to call me and ask me about diabetes and high blood pressure. And every auntie will call me and I will tell them, oh, why don't you eat fruits? They'll tell me, I don't eat grapes because it gives you diabetes. I'll be like, okay. And then I'll say, okay, why don't you have a bit of, I've not eaten the whole day, I'm feeling lightheaded. Okay, go and have something to eat. Why don't you have some rice? I don't eat carbs because it's going to give me diabetes. And I'm thinking, TikTok is going to kill people, especially our aunties, because everybody suddenly is given health advice on TikTok. And unfortunately, it's not the right information out there. So yes, some of these foods can be bad for you, but this is what we've been eating for forever. If they were that bad for you, we'll all be dead by now. It's about eating in moderation, right? So I think, the information's out there, but we really need to know where to pick it from. So back to the question in terms of cultural awareness, yes, we've not really been taught about it. We've not been educated in terms of mental health in the culture. And this is what my charity aims to do, and so some charities out there as well, like Black Minds Matter, and I know there are other African, like Black mental health network, and there are other people doing incredible jobs out there. But yeah, it's just awareness we need to raise, really.
Okay. And going into awareness, interestingly enough, this question has come up. How can communities reduce the stigma associated with mental illness?
I think it's one of these things where it's going to have to be like tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and obviously come into talks like this. So this is why we're creating awareness by creating these workshops within the communities, hoping to go into churches, into mosques, wherever is important to try and get that information and education out there. The most important thing is also the people that hear the information should then educate other people. Anybody on here could essentially invite me to their church to come and talk about mental health. You can invite me to your community, to your Black community, if you've got like a Black group of people that it's just about getting that message out there. Or you can even this is live streamed and is always on YouTube. People can play back on it. So essentially, people can. It's very easy to play back on. I'm very easy to find. You type in my name, there's only one Dr. Akosua Ofosu-Asiedu. My name is very unique. Literally type it into Google, you'll be able to contact me. I'm very traceable, very contactable. Essentially, if people watch the video, they want they got more questions, more than happy for anybody to drop me a message on LinkedIn or wherever you find me on Google. Like it's really just about creating awareness. Because that stigma that we have all starts with you, right? It starts with what you believe, okay? So imagine if somebody comes to you, not even necessarily somebody you're looking after, if a friend comes to you and a friend says, are you imagine that Kweku yesterday? He refused to go to football and this and that and that and that. And if you're the person who's heard this talk and you're saying, actually, did you ask Kweku why they didn't want to go to football? That alone could be a seed that you've sown. But if they came to you and you almost enhanced that behavior and said, saying, yeah, and that would how the stigma continues and the culture continues. So I'm just hoping everybody here will make a difference in the way that they carry themselves within the community and create that awareness. And that's essentially how it's going to spread, really.
Okay. Okay, before I go on to any other questions, I want to ask a personal question. And sorry, I just want to speak my dialect. I think it will be a bit more easier. So yeah, mental health awareness in Myanmar. Do you really think, say, the kind of upbringing we have also makes a difference, especially back home? Like you said, even if you're not happy about something, you're whipped in line, like you don't have a choice. Whereas here, you have a choice in a way, because what can you really do? I'll go and report and all of that. Do you not think and also so to create that kind of mental health, and I say mental health I don't know whether to say illness. I know it's two different things, but so
I agree with you to an extent. So I always say this, that we need to find a common ground. I definitely do think that people within the Western culture are enabled too much, right? So I feel like a lot of things can pass off as being like, you hear a child telling their mom to fuck off, excuse my French. And, and if you were to say, oh, that's terrible behavior, they'll say, oh, they have ADHD, so allow them, or, or like, and there's always a label, there's always a tag, there's always some type of explanation to excuse bad behavior. Now that's different. And unfortunately, on the other end back home, there is nothing to excuse mental illness behavior. Okay. And I have my own experiences within my personal circles where I know people who've suffered with PTSD from particular experiences in their lives who still currently suffer from it, but it was never diagnosed. So essentially that person just braves on, they go about their daily lives and almost brave, but you can literally tell how stricken this person is. And it's basically cars. She's dead scared of cars. And, even a road that would take like 30 seconds for everybody to cross in London. This person will stand there for like 2 hours. They'll still be looking for car. Car has not come in. They'll be looking for the car just because they've literally got PTSD from an accident that happened when they were younger. Unfortunately, it wasn't diagnosed to this point. So they've just had to learn to live their lives and go about it. And, they can still get on a car, they can get into a car, but essentially you can tell how it affects them, even when it comes to crossing the road. Like the green man has to be green for like 1 minute before the person will cross the road just to make sure that the car has stopped. Is that much.
Yeah.
And that's negative effect on a person's life, But unfortunately, we don't diagnose these things. And in a way, I struggled with this as a doctor, coming from the cultural background that I do, but being trained in the Western world, I struggled with this because I asked the exact same question. I was like, well, if people can actually learn to live with it, why do we then enable these things? Because if clearly somebody who's got PTSD can still learn how to live, but in this country, they'd be so shielded that they'll probably never get into a car. They'll never drive a car. Like the government will probably have to pay for a private jet to take them from do you know what I mean? Just because it's like, oh, they've got mental, and this is where you start to think, why do we enable it? But that's what I mean. We need to find a common ground. Okay. Ignoring the symptoms as well is detrimental. And this is what I talked about. People can live with this up until a certain point where it then breaks them, where they can actually lose their lives from it and they can actually commit suicide. A lot of the characters we're starting to see pop up in Africa with all these bad behaviors, and we say, oh, these days children are like this or people are like that. And it's all because we're not really looking at what's important, what people are going through. A lot of people are going through a lot, and it might not necessarily even be mental illness. Like I say, there might be a time in your life where you might just be depressed just for a short moment. Somebody can actually experience depression for just a week and that's it. They'll never experience it again. But in that week that they had depression, they had a mental illness and that's it. But we fail to recognize these things. And sometimes that 1 week, because we fail to recognize that 1 week, can then go into 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, and then suicide. So as much as we don't enable stuff, but we also need to recognize things so that we can get help where we need to. And then if, like I said, if help comes and help says this is not mental illness or poor mental health, then we go about our day and we do what we got to do to kick that person back into being, we got to do what we got to do, but we need to rule out mental health, okay?
That's very true. Very, very true. Thank you very much, Dr. Akosua. Someone not being able to cross the road, I can just imagine back home. You see
what I mean?
Whether you like it or not. But yeah, I understand that we need to give people time to do things in their own time, because sometimes, of course, that helps. Because we've all been able to overcome certain things by the time and space that we've been given.
And I mean, the thing is, there is help as well. So like I said, this person who can't cross the road, who's like in their 70s now and is still quite scared of crossing the road, if they were in this country, as much as they may have been enabled, but they would have been given the resources to deal with that. So by the age that they're 70, they've probably even forgotten that trauma they had, or even they had the trauma, they've learned skills and ways to deal with that, which allows them to live a fulfilled life and they can go ahead with that. But a lot of the time we don't do that. And I mean, that's why I say it does really go on to affect our childhood and our livelihood. So
that's true. That's very true. Thank you so much, Dr. Akosua. So my take home from what you have said is give people space. And in giving them space, you should also check up on them during that period, because in that time, they could be okay and bounce back, but then it can grow into something else, and later on you could be asking yourself so many questions. And we should also seek help, speak to others, if not family. There are so many people out there, so many resources that we can get in helping us come out of whatever we're going through. Before we bring this meeting to an end, do you have anything to say, or are you just going to summarize everything up for us before we go?
I mean, you've done a brilliant summary, so I don't think I really need to do that again. I was just going to say I've put the flyer for Safe Spaces in the chat. It's a PDF file. It's essentially got our details, our LinkedIn, our website, our contact number. That actually comes directly to me as well. So if there's anything that touched anybody in this topic or anything else they want to talk about when it comes to youth mental health or even supporting families and manage mental health at home. So mental health, some of the things would be depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia can affect mental health. And I've already said bipolar, ADHD, autism, that kind of to be honest, any long-term condition can affect a young person's mental health. But if they start exhibiting these signs of sort of depression, anxiety, so just being anxious to go out, feeling really low, sad, isolated, that sort of thing. If you have any questions at all, please do message any of the numbers on the contact on the flyer. I'm more than happy to to get back to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Akosua, and thanks to everyone who joined us tonight. Mental health is real, and we need to be there for each other and also seek help when we go through anything. Again, our event was sponsored by Taptap Send, and we will be back here next Wednesday, same time, same space. We're not sure whether it's going to be Dr. Akosua, but whoever it is, we're going to share that.
It'll be Dr. Blessing, and I think he's talking on. Let me just get my facts right. I think he's talking on bone cancer. What month are we in? July. Yes, Dr. Blessing will be talking about bone cancer next month. So please do tune in. It'll be an interesting topic.
All right. Thank you so much, and have a good night, everyone. Enjoy the hot evening
and the World Cup.
Oh, yes.
All right, take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Christica Manian. Pretty me do rap to say. From me send Yama in a minute in Sabacandia and then one Taptap Send.
Yeah, Ebushanfo, we didn't did an Akuma Pachlewa one. They recommended Taptap Send that mama. And that's our for also for baby. Diabasa, our rating so yeah. Omo ye A1 nti obian load Taptap Send that all sense ka for Taptap
yebo hu de wo kire amansan yebo hu de wo kire Ghana for say ye wa kwantu ne di sika kofi nie me ye mfemfa ba bia ye be nu ye ho Taptap edemu fuwa Taptap Send in this street
the Taptap de no na
Taptap de no na e na e
piao